Hi, Rakhi. I welcome you to this session of Leading Ladies Wonder Woman Recruitment. First of all, thank you so much for accepting my invitation and for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachna.
The pleasure is mine, Rakhi. Can we have a quick introduction about you?
I have been into talent acquisition for close to 19, 20 years now. I have seen the industry transition from where we were. We were a very volume focused IT services recruitment industry to where we are today, where we have products, GCCs, startups, and so much of variety of recruitment happening in the market. I think the opportunities that today's recruiters have is far, far more than what I had seen in my recruiter days. But it's exciting. These are exciting times to be a recruiter and, to grow in this field. It has finally got the recognition that it deserves. And I believe that, this is going to continue remaining one of the most sought after skills. And there is so much more to do here. So, yeah, here I am.
That's great. But there's this notion that recruiters slash HRs, they're taken for granted more often than not. So what do you have to say about that? Like, why do you think people have this preconceived notion कि HRs and recruiters, they're just for the sake of it? Like, काम तो अपने आप हो जाता है. So what do you have to say about that?
So, I always say that it's, 70% perception, 30% work, and that applies here. Uh, if you're able to build that um, perception correctly, which is in tandem to the deliveries that you do, I don't think this will come up. If this is coming up, then you need to pay attention to the perception area.
Fair enough. That's a good answer. All right. So first of all, how's your state of mind? Are you happy? Like, what zone are you in right now at this point of your life?
Well, I'm excited. I'm
Mhm.
in a very excited phase of my career and life because what I do for a living is something that I'm very passionate about. I've always loved recruitment. This is a chosen path for me. So there
Mhm.
were multiple opportunities that I got where I could move on to doing HR along with recruitment. And, you know, I just found this far more exciting, something that I could connect with. Today, what I do is, as part of my role at Zanov, I help GCCs, start and grow in India. I think growing teams and growing organizations has always been the most exciting thing for me to do. And being able to do that here day in and day out, I think, I really feel, it's like it's the best thing that one can do right now, where the industry is going, where India and Indian talent is so much in demand. And they're not in demand only for scale. India has always had the scale and cost arbitrage, but we're not in demand only for scale, but we are in demand for quality. There's talent, abundant talent available in India that is of, I would say, best to superior quality. And I think that is the exciting period for me as a recruiter, because once we hit that space, and we get to see so many talented people around, people who talk, and deliver in technology, the way I have never seen in my earlier career. It's very exciting and impressive. So yeah, I'm in a good place right now, growing companies, building teams.
So how has your professional journey been so far? And what was that one moment of greatest satisfaction which made you feel like, okay, now my job profile has been justified? Like, what was that one satisfactory moment?
Oh, I have had many such satisfactory moments. I
Okay.
think, I'll narrate a small incident. So just 2 weeks back, I was with my family in a mall, in my own happy world shopping around. And suddenly somebody stops me and calls my name, and I'm like, hi, hello. And, this person says, hey, do you remember you hired me in this company? And of course, as a recruiter, I will never say no. And I said, "Oh yeah, great. How is it going? How has your career been? After we hired you?" And he said, he just said one thing. He said, Raki, because the advice you gave me that time, I built my career. I think that's
Okay.
the best satisfying thing for any recruiter, where you're not just growing organizations and teams, but you're making careers. And this was not a unique experience. I mean, there's so many people I'm still in touch with, hires that I have made in the two, in 1998, 2000. I'm still in touch with them, and they are in touch with me, and I've seen their careers grow. And every time they ping me and say thank you, I think that is the most satisfying moment for me. As far as the trajectory of my professional life, I started as an agency recruiter. I'm very passionate about that, and moved on to working with IBM. Uh, did some crazy hiring at IBM. Then moved on to working with startup. After that, I worked with a venture funding firm, a product organization, and now here I am at Zinnov, helping large organizations across the globe start their centers in India. So it has been a variety, and I love the variety that I have. I think it was a natural inclination for me because every time I took something which was offbeat, I always had something which resonated to the ideal career path. So, like when I was about to join IBM, I had another offer in hand, and that was again something that I could have chosen at that time, and my career would have been in a different trajectory. But IBM was more challenging, and the brand IBM, like we all still say, we bleed blue, and we love that. So, so I think some choices of in my entire career growth have been. Um, at that time, they did feel like random. At that time, people did say that, do you really know what you're doing by choosing something like this? But I think bottom line is these experiences have taught me a great deal, and I use that learning in and out every day now, to build companies.
That's amazing. And so that's a very interesting point that you mentioned that people asked you these questions like, do you even know what you're doing? How do you deal with that? Because like I do find myself at that particular position at some point and I have no idea like how do I deal with it. So what is it that goes in your mind and how do you deal with questions like those? Like, what are you doing in your life? So
Okay. So every time I was asked this question is specifically because of a career choice, um, I evaluate the choice I make, right? And I'm very serious about the choices I make, especially when it's about the work that I do and what I can contribute to organizations. Um, so and once that choice is made, it's a very objective decision for me. One thing I have seen that as a recruiter, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will resonate, that we're not afraid of the unknown, right? That is how the recruiter gene is. Right? Very seldom I've seen, sorry, very few times I have seen recruiters say that, I don't know, I'm scared of doing this or I'm scared of taking, at least I've seen great and good recruiters don't do that. And so the fear of unknown is very little for us. And a lot of people here would agree, and I never had that fear of unknown. I always wanted to take different experiences since the beginning of my career, because recruitment, if you do it in the same pattern, can become very monotonous. You land up in the same space where there are hundreds of people already there. No, nothing bad about it, right? But I was built a different way, and I love to take these different experiences, a new experience. When 2012, 2014, the startup wave was just starting in India. I was leading, a mid-sized startup at a global level to build their teams, right? And that too in business intelligence technologies, which were very new at that particular time. Very few organizations could even afford these people. And we built a team of 300, 400 people with those skills. So then, it becomes a story that I can tell in recruiting. Otherwise, yeah, I mean that is has been the driving factor for me, and that's what I look at when people say. I love to do when people say, "Oh, that's impossible," or "That's not something you should do," and I'm like, really, why?
Fair enough. Like, what is life without challenges? And something that keeps. And I think these challenges are very important to test that willpower of yours and to test if you will be able to stand the test of like all of these hurdles and all. And I think only those challenges would give you a better shape and give your future a positive inclination. So yes, that sounds good. All right. So I'm sure like in the span of like 20 years of your professional life, there must have been some tough times, there must have been some disappointing ones as well. So, what was that one moment which almost broke you, but then somehow you could sail through? So, what was that one
Okay,
moment?
okay. Um, if you ask me, every time a candidate ditches me, it breaks me. So, and every time a candidate joins, I'm like super happy. And I still have that feeling in me, right? Um, so I always tell my teams and I always tell people who work with me that every offer counts, correct?
Hmm.
Treat every offer that you have made like it matters, and you will automatically see that you're changing the way you're approaching hiring.
Hmm.
Well, you're right. Like, there have been multiple ups and downs. The industry has changed to a large extent. I mean, uh, today, the way recruiters think and talk, we were very different kind of recruiters when we were recruiters, right? Um, I think recruitment is a lot, and I say this, I mean, people who know me and are hearing this would be like, okay, she keeps saying the same thing, but yeah, recruitment is about relationships, right?
Hmm.
Recruitment is about connection. I think every time I have found recruiting difficult is when um, I have not found an answer to make this connection or make a relationship. And then that becomes an area where I would really like to put some effort to ensure we do that because we deal with peoples, we deal with minds and hearts, and we deal with socioeconomic conditions. We don't deal with skills. I don't know why people just talk about skills when they talk about recruiting. Skill is one of the factor that drives recruiting. But as a matter of fact, you deal with a person and the whole package that comes as a person, right? And then that's a different conversation altogether. And the moment we start looking at recruiting from this side, it looks different and it looks far more meaningful than hiring 100 Java developers. Nothing bad with that. I mean, that's one kind of recruiting, of course.
Right. But yeah, I get your point. Okay. So today, basically, we'll be talking about the importance of emotional intelligence in talent acquisition and what. And so my first question on that would be, how would you define emotional intelligence, and why is it important in the in the context of talent acquisition? That's my first question.
Okay. So I think emotion, I was just saying, right? Emotional intelligence is about connection, correct?
Hmm.
Your ability to build, the ability to understand the non-factual drivers of your candidate, correct? Drivers like mind and heart, drivers like upbringing, drivers like socio-economic conditions, ambitions, goal, life, where that person is in the life cycle, career life cycle, family life cycle. Understanding a candidate beyond skills, I think that would be emotional intelligence in recruiting. And same is very valid when you need to understand your hiring managers beyond the requisition. Because, what pain does a hiring manager go through if you are not able to onboard somebody? The moment as recruiters, we understand that pain or understand that situation, you start thinking, at a requisition as not a requisition, but something meaningful you're getting into the organization. And then you become advisors. Then you're not somebody who is pushing CVs, but you become advisors that, hey, I want to help you. I want to help you to, achieve this. And if I have to help you achieve this, then these are the options. The conversation maturity changes completely. So I think for a recruiter, emotional intelligence is going to mean these two things, one on the candidate
Yeah.
side and one on the hiring manager side. Now, does that mean we forget ourselves? No, we ourselves have, a lot to deal with. We are dealing with number pressures. We're dealing with quality pressures. We're dealing with budget pressures, right? And then understanding what a particular conversation is, what kind of situation is it putting you into as a recruiter? Being aware about, I know it's easier said than done, but it can be done. So if recruiters are able to identify themselves, separate themselves a little bit from the conversations or a lot of times escalations that are going around, I think that will give a certain uh, ground to recruiters to bounce back. We are anyways a very resilient workforce, right? Recruiters are a very very resilient workforce. We adapted to digital hiring like this, right? We deal with 100 people, 200, 500, 600 people in a recruitment drive. I mean, when I used to hire in my career, and one Saturday morning we have a recruitment drive, and I would have 800 people standing for me to open the door, right? And we've dealt with that, and we're dealing with this. So I think being aware about your own mental state when you're talking to a candidate of what you want to achieve through that conversation is another very important, emotional intelligence area for recruitment.
That's amazing. And like I agree with your point, and I think to some extent the managers, the hiring managers slash recruiters, they need to build that certain emotional connect slash human connect with the candidates. Otherwise, first of all, the candidate experience gets hampered, just by platonic or superficial conversations. So I think to some extent that is important. But then also I've heard this point that not all, like more often than not, maybe it's better to not go for emotional thinking, or just think practically and go ahead with your day-to-day jobs, because emotional thinking or emotional inclination towards any decision might hamper the productivity. What do you have to say on that?
See, emotions and emotional intelligence are two different things. Okay, emotions is more about how you feel, right? Oh, Rachna is interviewing me today. I feel great. I have happy emotions, right? But my emotional intelligence is a different quotient. Emotional intelligence has to do with awareness about yours and others' state of mind, right? So when you're having that conversation with the candidate, what kind of empathy, what kind of connect are you able to bring to table for the candidate to trust you beyond just giving you, vital details about interested in job and, you know, salary and notice and all. Are you able to take the conversation to that? And I've over my career, I have seen that recruiters who are able to have those kind of conversations, those human to human conversations, I think those are the recruiters who are most successful in their careers. They will always have high offer to joinee ratio, they will always have great candidate experience, and they will always have their hiring managers talk good about. A lot of times recruiters ask me, oh Rakhi, tell me what I need to improve, right? One can be a great recruiter, one can know all the skills and give great queries and strings and you know however if we miss this, uh, you
Mhm.
know it doesn't complete you as a great and successful recruiter.
Fair enough. That does make sense. And what do you think could be some of the challenges while someone is trying to be emotionally intelligent, like, and while putting that skill to use, what do you think can a newbie recruiter face?
I think the most important thing is to separate emotions and emotional intelligence, right?
Fair enough.
uh, don't confuse them, because uh, otherwise then you're um, it's like a doctor feeling sad about pain of every patient that day. examine, right? They will never be able to do their jobs, isn't it? That's how we are as recruiters. We can't not be objective about our jobs. Our jobs are very objective jobs. We have certain goals that we have to chase. And so separating, emotions and emotional intelligence of how you're going to leverage the human awareness to do better recruiting. I think that is what one should focus. The moment you start mixing these two, you will be like, you know,
Becomes a mess.
yes. That's why, doctors can't operate on their own relations, right? Because
True. True.
emotions are involved. Don't, don't, don't confuse between emotions and emotional intelligence. I think the moment you do that, it's going to be tough.
Well, that does make sense. Okay, and that brings me to my next question. In your opinion, what are some of the unique emotional intelligence skills that women bring to the workplace, and how can companies leverage these skills to improve their overall business performance? Because I've heard this, like, even that's my personal opinion, that women have better emotional intelligence more often than not than men. So, like, what do you have to say on that?
um, Very interesting. And I have so many of my friends in DNI, and they will be like not happy with the statements I make here. But see, traditionally, women's roles have always been that of a caregiver,
True.
and men's role have always been that of somebody who is a protector,
Hmm.
right? And that's where we see that when you say women have higher EQ, emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, is because we are built to give care. We are built to care, right? And now I'm not saying that men don't care.
True.
However, the way men express care is very different than the way women do. Right? I hear, if I hear one of my friends not feeling too good, I don't think three times of picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, what happened? Are you doing well? Can I do something for you?" And all that. Men are very, very objective about these
Hmm.
areas. So their level of EQ is different. I will not say they don't have EQ. I think the biggest, uh, uh, you know, natural advantage that organizations get by hiring women is they bring in a lot of empathy in the organization. And and with the way technology changes, with the way, you know, the whole scenario, the whole landscape is changing. Earlier, it used to take 10 years for our technology and business landscape to change. Then it became 5 years, then about 2.5 years, and now we are sitting at a 1.5 year change cycle. So, at the speed at which this is going to change, organizations are going to expect their people to change faster, with keep up with the speed. And that some people I'm sure will be able to do it. Some people will not be able to do it. And I think that is where this empathy part will be very, very important for organizations, because to deal, motivate, to take people from one level to another, one change to another, right, is a very, very important skill that organizations have to build inside. You can't always get a transformational leader from outside and say, okay, go transform everything. That is not going to work. You need to have leaders coming from inside trying to drive these changes in your organization. And then if you have women as leaders who are given the responsibility to drive, there's a natural sense of empathy, and that will come. That does not mean women cannot be fierce business leaders. Okay? I have been given feedback umpteen number of times. You're aggressive, right? You're very fast. Um, and I know leaders who are just great business leaders. Yeah, women leaders who are driving organizations from the top. but that still means that they do it with that empathy. And I have seen that as a very stark difference between um, male and female leaders, where that empathy factor is very high. I think organizations should take advantage of this skill, which is a very, very natural gift to us.
True, I agree. And so now that you talk about aggression, like obviously maintaining a balance between two emotions, one being the aggression and the second being emotional intelligence, I'm sure it's not easy. Like it's easier said than done. But then, how do you balance between the two? Like, how does the balance happen? Because like more often than not, kahi na kahi, it goes 60-40, 70-30. So like, how do you maintain a balance so that you have a win-win situation and then nobody is hurt and ultimately everybody is happy? So how do you maintain that balance?
I don't think ultimately everybody being happy should be the goal for anyone, right? Um, so no, I mean, one time when one of my ex leaders spoke with me, and I told him that I can either be popular or I can deliver. You tell me what you want to be, right?
Oh,
Because
okay.
recruiting is such an area, it's not a popularity contest. Revenue depends on what you deliver, right? Your organization's growth depends, the business plans depend on what you deliver. I don't think popularity and making people happy is a contest anywhere at all. That does not mean you take a bulldozer and start bulldozing people, right? Because then you don't do successful recruiting either. As I said, recruiting is all about relationship.
Hmm.
So focus on achieving that balance. Balance can be achieved through open, candid communication, right?
Hmm.
Have For recruiters, couple of things really matter when you want to achieve that balance. One is, boss, you should do your work. You can't just go talk sweet and get out of situations all the time. So please do your basics as a good recruiter, right? Um, have your data ready. Even now, how business leaders looks at data. I learn data every day on how to interpret data, how to present data. It's an ongoing learning cycle. Have your data at your hand, and then go to your business or go to your candidate as an advisor, as communication, with the thought of communicating as an advisor and not as somebody who is just providing information. So I think, and one of my bosses says a very nice thing, right? He says, Raki, explain it like you're explaining to a 5-year-old. And then my whole approach changes, right? And that's a
Well,
great thing I have learned from him. So my whole approach changes because then I'm not throwing numbers and facts. I'm trying to tell this person why it matters. And then that's a conversation you will have with your 5-year-old, because you will not just keep screaming and saying, don't do that, don't do that. That's not right. You will tell the 5-year-old that,
yeah.
hey, don't do that because this is hot. It will hurt you. And if it
Hmm.
hurts you, you will have to go and face consequences in a clinic. Correct? So that entire conversation changes. I love this analogy, right? It really changed the way I'm communicating data, recruitment data, even to business leaders. So I think balance is about how you communicate and how you support your communication. The moment we learn this, and if you look at it, it's a very easy skill to achieve. But if you look at it, it's not so easy skill to achieve, right? So if you have the support of systems, tools that you can quickly pick up data from, you're doing your work as a great recruiter, right? And you're talking to candidates with the sole purpose of building careers. Don't talk to candidates like commodity, right? Don't look at candidates like commodity. Talk to them as human beings to whom you're offering a career. Imagine somebody is calling you and trying to sell you something, and then you put money into it, and then you think, oh my God, this guy didn't give me the right advice. That can also be a recruiting experience. So talk to people like you're talking to them about their careers, about the life they are going to build if they choose the opportunity that you get. And then basis that, build your data, and then talk to your hiring managers like their business matters to you. Does their
Mm.
business matter? Does, the success of their team, should matter to you, because that's going to be achieved by the people you hire. So if you're able to connect these dots end to end, right,
Mm.
understand these two perspectives and weave in a story to talk about, you have achieved a balance for yourself.
Very well said. It does make sense. In what ways can emotional intelligence help recruiters and hiring managers connect better with the candidates, understand their needs and motivations, and ultimately make more informed decisions?
I think there is a very simple word for everything that you
Mhm.
said, and that is competency. Right.
Okay.
So with with skills, uh, how do you assess the fitment and competency of candidate? Is the
Mhm.
use of emotional intelligence that recruiters and hiring managers put in.
Okay.
There are so many instances when I have gone and recommended to my hiring managers not to hire somebody, even if it is a selected candidate, we're ready to make an offer. My assessment of that candidate as a person, as an approach, as an
Mhm.
attitude, if it is not great, I don't want to hire that person. Right.
Mhm.
I remember one case of very, very escalated positions, like, oh my God, escalated, went right to the top. And we found this lady, and, we made an offer and we really gave her good money.
Okay.
Um, one, I didn't like the process of negotiation that she was going through. I was a little uncomfortable with that. But then, we were in need, and anybody will, negotiate when they're looking for a job. So I let it go. However, after making an offer and after accepting an offer, and, right before joining, she came back and she made a couple of statements to the recruiter, which I overheard on a conversation.
Okay.
So the speaker conversation going on, and I overheard that conversation. And at that very moment, I decided we will not hire. And I went to my VP and told him that, she's going to be a very wrong hire for you. She's going to make your life extremely difficult once she walks in. And I highly recommend you not to hire her. Do you still want to hire her because we are in escalation? I said, I'll work night and day and give you somebody else to replace. And we didn't make, we withdrew the offer. So I think using our emotional intelligence to make these decisions, which are right for your client and right for your organization. Probably we did the right thing for her also, because she wouldn't have thrived in the environment that we had, right? So I think using emotional intelligence to make decisions like this now is how we can put the skill to use. And I think it starts from the first conversation that a recruiter has with a candidate. It is not that, okay, let him come to the offer stage and I'll get my emotional intelligence inside and now assess. It doesn't happen that way. It is built, it is right from the first approach that you make to a candidate, and how you are, calling that out to your hiring managers. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes your hiring manager is also, not in a state to make decisions which are right for them. And, there are multiple biases that people have. As a recruiter, you need to understand and realize the objective is not to put somebody on the front and say, hey, you're biased. The objective is to work around that bias to ensure that you're making the right hire. And I think all of this can be done by a recruiter, by having that open mind from the first conversation. And I know it is very, very hard than, said than done, because a recruiter talks to at least 20-25 candidates minimum in a day. The question will be, kitna open rakhe mind, right?
True.
What will happen to my own mind if I have all this openness and things coming to me? But I think, over time and over experience, and when you deal with thousands of people, you are you develop the ability to cancel the noise and focus on the crux. To understand what the conversation is about, what the candidate is, what is driving a candidate. So I'll give you another small incident. So I was doing a post offer engagement call with one of our hires. And again, a
Okay.
very, we really wanted this guy to join because he was sitting in Mumbai for a skill that is not present in Mumbai. And our client really wanted that person only in Mumbai, right? So we
Hmm.
really wanted to hire him. So he's sitting and talking to me. And every time I talk about compensation, work life balance, he looks up like this, right? And I realize that he's looking at somebody there. And then I drifted the conversation to his family. And he said, yeah, I'm married and, no kids. So just married few years back. And I said, oh, I sense that your wife is around. And he smiled and he said, yeah, she's sitting right here. I said, why don't you get her in the conversation? Let's talk. Right. And then she came and she's asking me questions and he's sitting like this. So, and
Okay.
so when I sent the chocolate box to him, I sent it to his wife. I didn't send it to him. And he joined. Right. So how do you use emotional intelligence to influence, the right thing and the thing that you want for your organization is a skill as recruiter.
That's really sweet. But don't you think I mean, of course, with age comes wisdom, and with age also does come with age also comes experience. But like, don't you think after a certain period of time you become immune to these emotions, and after a point it'll just be like superficial thing or a set of algorithms that you follow, and then you get on with your day. You think there might be a possibility for that to happen? Because I will, I mean, I have this feeling that over a period of time, these emotions might get to a level ground, and then there's nothing you can feel beyond that, and you just become superficial with dealing with things like these. What do you
Okay.
think of that?
Okay. Um, so in the early 2000s, there was this lot
Mm.
of talk about how automation is going to take over recruiting, how AI is going to take over recruiting, right? And
Mm.
recruiters will be obsolete, sources will not be needed. All of that fancy discussions used to happen, and we used to sit in five-star hotels and round tables. And what's going to happen? कुछ नहीं हुआ. We still need sources and we still need recruiters because that human connect is the core to recruiting as still, right? It will change. The definition will certainly change. AI
Mm.
is going to be more intelligent. I mean, um, ChatGPT analyzes a CV far better than my fresher can analyze right now, right?
Mm.
Um, so AI is going to take certain parts of recruiting and make them better. But the human aspect of recruiting is one of the most important aspect of talent acquisition. That's not going anywhere. So whatever you do, over time, like you said, I mean, I don't know, I don't even have a count of candidates that I talk with over all these years. As I said, I still feel the excitement when a candidate joins, and I still feel sad when I can't close a position, right? Now
Mm.
I have learned to deal with this because of my experience. um like I was a recruiter and I would not sulk in the evening that I now have to go and tell my hiring manager and I have to restart the process. I don't do all that now. I don't need to.
Okay, huh.
I've tried learned to deal with it, but it still happens, and I will be very surprised if it doesn't happen to every recruiter, right? So the definition will change, but the human touch in recruiting is absolutely going to be there. There is no doubt about it, right? That the human touch is going to be required to make a successful hire.
Okay, moving on. How can companies ensure that the recruiters and hiring managers have the necessary emotional intelligence skills to be effective in their roles? And what training and development opportunities can be provided to help build emotional intelligence?
I think influencing and
Hmm.
communication, these are the
Okay.
two skills that recruiters and hiring managers should develop, or
Okay.
organizations should develop for them.
Hmm.
The most successful hiring managers, right? And they end up growing their businesses also. I mean, they end up building great teams, they end up growing their own business, and they end up becoming successful themselves.
Hmm.
I have seen these people having a direct to heart communication with candidates. That makes all the difference. I know candidates who would come to me and say, I would call up the candidate, hey, I'm really sorry that, this did not go through for you, but, we'll reach out to you for if there's something else, and this is the feedback. And the candidate would say, oh, Rakhi, I'm really sad I didn't get it, but trust me, I had the most wonderful interview experience. And then, that person has built their own brand and their organization's brand in this candidate's mind and heart till it is destroyed by somebody else who cannot win, who doesn't have that skill, right? So I think, that is the most important skill, and organizations should absolutely invest in building the communication and the influencing skill with their hiring managers and their recruiters. And I think it's very important for hiring managers to go through this. For some reason, I don't know, a lot of hiring managers, change the way they look at candidates the moment they get hired. It's like a marriage, right? The moment you get married, the whole dating and courtship period is over. The whole equation changes. It's like, I'm like, "Boss, you were a candidate yesterday. Just because you changed and came here, why are you changing so much? You went through the same process." So I think having hiring managers to maintain that uh, EQ about candidates, about how you treat people, how you come across. We do a lot of workshops about this. I've done it in my early organization. I do it here, especially when people from US, Japan are interviewing candidates. Building that story for them as to what to expect in an Indian interview, and what should you take care of when you talk to candidates in India. So those are the programs that I have built over career. But I think those are the two most critical skills to answer your question.
So one thing is, what is that one mistake women make in their professional life slash careers that you highly object, that you cannot stand by?
They want special facilities because they're women.
Oh yeah, the women card.
I know my feminist friends are going to kill me for saying this, but you are a professional. You're working in the same job that any man is working. Yes, your build is different, right?
Hmm.
You're built differently as a species, as a
Hmm.
person, as an environment. You're built differently, but that's the diversity, right? So women should not expect any special treatments. I don't like it when women ask for special treatments because they are women. Yeah, their needs are different. An organization should address their needs. Their
Hmm.
priorities are different. So if a woman is taking a break to take care of her children, that is because it is her priority,
Hmm.
not because
True.
she's a woman, right? A man can tomorrow decide, I want to take care of kids, because that
Hmm.
becomes his priority, not because he's a man or he's not a, he's a woman. It's not like that. So
Hmm.
uh, organization should take care of
Hmm.
any gender's priorities, not treat women differently because they're women. I think that's that's not done.
No, no, that does make sense because sometimes, like, it might not like happen very often, but I've seen people going like, "Yeah, मैं तो लड़की हूँ ना, इतना तो कर सकती हूँ, चलता है." Like, give me that little bit of liberty slash cut me some slack because I'm a woman, and yeah, that does make sense. Like, on one side, people talk about this feminism and all, like equal opportunities, equal rights, and everything, but then ultimately they'll come down to saying, okay, I'm a woman, so please cut me some slack. So, yeah,
Agree.
that should not happen, ideally.
Absolutely.
Okay. Moving on, how do you prioritize emotional intelligence in your career, and what advice would you give to your younger self?
Emotional intelligence plays a very, very important part for me,
Hmm.
because it is, I at least I feel, and I don't know, people who work with me, people whom I hire for, and people whom I have hired are the better judge of it. But I do feel it's a core to how I have developed myself as a professional.
Hmm.
Um, why I say that is because um, of the same reason that, I never looked at my candidates as commodities. And that's why I have so many of them still in touch with me, and
Very true.
who probably still remember. I wouldn't have remembered this person's face, and I've encountered so many such uh, instances.
Mm.
So I think that is, you know, that has helped me connect the dots. What I was talking about between a candidate, a skill, a hiring manager, a position, and organization and business, all of this together to make sense. I think it is emotional intelligence that has helped me to bring it all together. So I think that is why it is very important for me. It has been an important aspect for me.
What advice would you give to your younger self? Like if you had to look back at yourself maybe 10, 15 years down the line, like what advice would you give to that version of yourself?
Oh, there are many, but let me
Okay.
stick to talent acquisition. I think the biggest advice I would give myself is, to um, nurture relationships.
Hmm.
I believe that I was always able to build them easily, but
Hmm.
nurturing and carrying them forward is something that I could have done a better job at.
Okay.
Um, and sometimes I do fall short in that. So I think nurturing from a EQ point of view. Of course, there are a lot of things that I would have liked to tell myself, on how I could be a better professional. But from an EQ point of view, I think, um, nurturing relationships would have been something I would tell myself is going to be needed for me.
Okay, fair enough. And what advice would you like to give to women in general?
Know your priorities, right?
Hmm.
Um, Women come to me with, seeking advice with so many different, and not just issues like where do I go in my career or, office situation. And I'm part of certain women's networks, right? Um, I think it's just that you're so mixed up with your priority. You want everything at the same intensity, at the same level. That doesn't happen. Yeah. Like Indira Noy said, you know, you can't have it all at the same time. Of course, you can have it all. You can have a great family life, you can have a great career, not at the same time, probably. So set your priority
Hmm.
because that will give you a direction of where you want to put your effort and energy. Splitting yourself in multiple parts and then saying the whole is not making sense is the common mistake I have seen women do, right? So have your priority right and work towards it. Be ready to put an effort. As I said, don't expect things to fall in place because you're a woman, right? So be ready to put in the required effort to achieve what your priority is. Let that be, bringing up your child, or let that be, leading a team and delivering great business, or let that be, doing marketing or social work or anything that you choose as your life's path. uh, have that priority, be ready to invest in it like it means to you, and then pursue it. Don't confuse it. Everything is going to be important, right? I will never say that my family is not my priority and only my work is my priority. But at least over time, I have learned to know when I have to put what in front. I know that if my kid has exams, I know my work can take a second seat. Giving attention and time to him is my priority at that time. I have an escalation, my kid can wait, right? So
Hmm.
achieve that balance, but please don't expect things ready made because you're a woman. And that's not going to take women anywhere.
Fair enough. It does make sense. And more often than not, if you try to manage everything, like ultimately nothing works out at the end. So rather than that, if you focus on just one thing and put in all of your sincere efforts to make that thing, one thing work out, I think that will give you much better and promising results as compared to when you become the jack of all trades and master of none.
absolutely, because you don't get fulfillment from anything, right?
True.
The some of these pieces is not going to be fulfilling enough. Rather
Mm.
than, you may have one piece which is demanding more and the others are in a smaller portion, but the whole picture will still look beautiful for you.
Mm. True. And there was this one thing that one of my guests told me this. So, like, rather than focusing on work-life balance, you better focus on work-life integration. So that will give you better results and not just trying to put unnecessary pressure on yourself, making things balance and making it 50-50 because नहीं होता है ऐसे हर बार. So,
No, I agree, and I think we are talking about the same thing, right? How
hmm,
effectively are you able to prioritize what gives you that balance? What is
hmm,
balance? Balance is a mental state that is peaceful for you, which is
hmm,
not causing stress. So,
hmm,
what is that state that is not causing stress to you? And
hmm,
in that state, what is the priority that is going to help you achieve that state of mind, which is not causing you stress? So, I think it is not a very difficult, I mean, it sounds probably difficult to achieve. It is not very difficult. And, I've guided so many of my friends and people who come to for advice on how to go about it. And don't try to be too many things at the same time. That doesn't land you up anywhere. Like, you'll always be wanting for more.
fair enough. Dil mange more. Yes. Well, then that brings us to the end of the session, Rakhi. Thank you so much for your time. And it was lovely, like, needless to say, it was lovely talking to you as my Wonder Woman. Knowing you and your stories was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much once again for being here with me today. How did you enjoy the session? Like, how was it for you?
Thank you so much, Rachna. I really loved having this conversation. I think we should talk more about emotional intelligence in
I
recruiting.
know, right?
And people we've always used it. We never
Hmm.
spoke about it. So I think it's a
Exactly.
wonderful topic, and I'm glad I could, share my thoughts about it. So thank you so much for having me today.